I'm Stephanie and I'm married to Trevor, and we have two kids, Lucy, who's 4, and Ruby, who's 2. And we've been a part of the Mill City community for the last 10 years now. I think I consider one relationship that has been really impacted by God's forgiveness. It's my relationship with my mom. My mom and I grew up really close. We were very similar in nature, and in middle school, when my parents separated, that bond became even more deep and concentrated. And then when my parents got both remarried, my mom got remarried to my stepdad, he actually lost his job and had to go to Washington, D.C. Monday through Friday throughout my entire high school career. And so my mom and I were it. And our relationship got even more close and more connected. And we would consider ourselves best friends at the time. And it wasn't until I got married that I realized that parts of our relationship were as healthy as I had once perceived. And then in 2011, when I moved back to Minnesota, I realized that really our relationship was more enmeshed and codependent than I would have wanted to admit. And so because of some of those realizations, I started making some changes. And anytime you make changes in a relationship, it takes 2 people to make that change, and it's hard and it's not clear and it can be messy. And I think because of that transition, there created even more misunderstanding. I think ways that I tried to create change, I think felt hurtful to my mom, and ways that we then would engage would create more wounds and more baggage and more hurt. And so it got bad. It was a relationship that had a lot of tricky aspects to it. We had a lot of awkward family gatherings. We had a lot of painful distance. We had a lot of hard conversations. And it finally got so frustrating that I just said, I think the only way that we can move forward is if we see a third party. I mean, it just got to a place where it was like, nothing is helping us move together. It felt just everything was a wedge between us. And we actually started seeing a counselor. We had my mom and I, and then each of our spouses were in the room. And we had several sessions together, and we both put our best selves forward. But there was a spiritual reality of a wedge that was present, that was really keeping us from moving forward. And I wasn't aware of it at the time, but it definitely was present because we walked away from that experience feeling even more defeated, more frustrated, more discouraged. And it wasn't until my second daughter, Ruby, was born in 2019 that things began to shift in our relationship. It was a really stressful time in my life because Ruby was born with 6 mouth ties, which made it exhausting to eat. And we didn't really realize that until she was 5 months old, but that first 5 months of life were dark. I mean, it would take 6 to 7 hours a day to feed Ruby on top of caring for a busy 2-year-old. And so my mom, who had just retired, started coming every week to care for Ruby and Lucy, give me a little break, but also just help me, just be an extra hand. And it was remarkable what her time meant. I was isolated because I couldn't really go anywhere. So to have somebody come to my house so regularly who actually loved my kids like I did, I mean, she was just as invested as I was a salve to our relationship. But there are other intentional times throughout that season where the Lord was bringing memories to mind, things that were on repeat in my mind, constantly coming forward and realizing that there was unforgiveness and it wasn't going anywhere unless it was dealt with. And I really felt like it was during this season that the Lord was saying, these things gotta sit with me. Like, I went to the cross for these things. And so it was these memories that I would literally say out loud, and I would just release it to the Lord. And I would say, I don't want to carry this anymore. It's too exhausting. It's too heavy. It's too damaging to our relationship. And I didn't realize it at the time, but unforgiveness can really silence the voice of God in your life. When I think about everything the Lord has offered to us as children, forgiveness is one of the most powerful things in our relationship with others. And it really is something that has transformed my family. I mean, our family gatherings are more meaningful. There's more laughter, there's more peace. People feel more safe. I just think about sharing this story because it's not just about me. I mean, I'm part of the body of Christ, and all of us have relationships that are messy. All of us have relationships that are broken. And if we don't do something about it, it's not going to change. But the only thing that we can do is actually go to the Lord and ask Him for His help and to receive forgiveness ourselves, because we can't transfer it to others if we ourselves haven't received that forgiveness. And so, yeah, I just think about who is somebody in your life that you have a broken relationship with, and what could it look like if you offered it to the Lord and considered what forgiveness could do to that relationship. And to this day, Ruby's favorite person is my mom. Through this process, I've been amazed to see God's tender, caring hand in this relationship, and the power that He offers to us in breaking generational sin and family cycles. So my mom had a broken relationship with her mom. My grandma had a broken relationship with her mom. And I am sure the generations continue on from them, but it's breaking today. And the relationship that my mom and I have is actually breaking it so that my girls and I won't have to have the same sort of baggage and weight of that generational sin. And that's powerful. And that changes not only my generation with my girls, but their generation with their children if they choose to have kids someday. So it's powerful, and it's not just about us today. It's about future generations to follow.